To me, he is one of the very, very few living natural philosophers, which is someone who practices science, does real work in science, but outside of a scientific institution, outside of the credential system. And I think his work is the kind of work that will last for 1,000 years.
Timeless wisdom. Naval Ravikant is talking about Nassim Taleb, and they are both going to share 12 of the biggest traps to escape in life, and truths that I wish I heard earlier. I'm Jordan, made over $5 million, hired 50 people, but now that you've seen some of my bank accounts, don't fall for the following trap.
The person who looks the least like a doctor got to have the most skills because he had to overcome perception bias against it.
There's a similar learning in early stage investing where you tend to avoid teams that look incredibly polished.
Exactly.
They have good PowerPoints, they're well dressed, they present well. What you want is the person who's been busy in front of the computer, flustered, gets up in front of a whiteboard, explains things a little too complicated but has the genuine substance.
Exactly.
But the form alone lets you avoid it. So you'll get business plans that are too well written and they use too many buzzwords and you reject them just on that basis.
Perception bias, the trap we all fall for. Like for example, an entrepreneur who went bankrupt twice likely understands business risks more than any successful founder with one company who never went bankrupt. Yet most people, at least here in Europe, look at that guy or girl as a higher risk. But what about the next trap? Arguably more hidden, but easier to see through.
You don't want to win an argument, you just want to win. Quickly realize that theoreticians are full of baloney. When you have a P&L, you can't really bullshit your way through life.
Theoreticians have little skin in the game. They don't have a P&L, profit and loss statement. Instead, they want to win arguments, or at least incentivized to do so. And you don't want to win arguments, you want to win. So be cautious of watching debates, or even participating if they are with theoreticians. So then how to recognize and filter for these theoreticians in your own life? Or maybe to be more precise with my words, how to filter out theory from truth. Because everyone is a theoretician to some extent, right? Me, Naval, and Nassim just have a higher truth density.
There are things that have a greater truth composition than others. You just have to get away from this binary thinking of true and false. So there are things that are more true and there are things that are less true.
The trap would be to ask, is this true, instead of how true is it? But then can you predict, based on the person, if they speak more truth?
I think if they remove the person from the theories,
remove the person from the theory. Well, here's what Naval means with that.
I think it's a mistake to apply it dogmatically or to say, oh, I believe that because, David Deutsch said so, or because it's part of critical rationalism, or even to ask, like, what does David think about this? I think that is a mistake.
So the trap here would be to apply truths dogmatically. Like if Alex Hormozi tells you to work hard, but then you start working 80 hours a week at McDonald's. So then the question, what about the opposite? Can you reject someone dogmatically out of your life because that person has often spoken untruth?
What do pseudo-experts do? They compare themselves to pilots. And we know that a pilot is an expert. So the pilot has skin in the game. Bad pilots, where are the bad pilots?
Underwater.
Underwater, right? Because they have skin in the game. Okay, it's even worse. It's not just like a restaurant that can fold, they're gone. So there is a selection mechanism that doesn't depend on judgment of other pilots.
Two insights here. The more skin in the game someone has, the more curious they are to find the true answer for themselves. Here's why.
Because true reasoning is unmotivated, or it's motivated purely by curiosity. Curiosity just means you want to know the truth. That's all it is. So in that sense, curiosity is the pure motivation.
And skin in the game is not binary. It's not like you have it or you don't. It's to what extent? Like pilots would likely die if they crash and thus have more skin in the game than the people at Boeing who build the planes. So for the more important decisions in your life, understand who you take advice from and how much skin in the game they have for the outcome of your decision. That's why I'm a big fan of talking to myself out loud, solving my own problems and questions, because I have the most context about my own life. And in most situations, I have the most skin in the game too. By the way, I write a weekly 2-minute email that you automatically receive if you download my free Google Sheet with over 80 free tools that I use in my business and personal life. No affiliate links, no sponsors. Just honestly a great list of tools that are free and that I use myself. Anyways, the second thing here is to understand that if there's a group of people judging the decision, then it is more likely to be untrue. Like Naval once said, if you want to make the wrong decision, ask everyone. And here Naval explains why this second insight is true in most situations.
I'm deeply suspicious of groups of people coming to the truth in anything, because it's not to say groups are bad. Humans are cooperators by nature. We need groups to get things done, but groups need consensus. A group that does not have consensus will fall apart. So a group will not admit its mistakes. It will not admit that it was wrong. It will not pivot. It's not a truth-seeking entity.
But then my question is, does this also apply for a small group of people who are serious about truth in any domain? Well, I found this interesting answer from Naval.
Space is a nonlinear domain where the right idea can be worth almost infinite amount of wrong idea.
So it's only a small number of innovators that are needed to like really drive any endeavor you can do, whether it's philosophy or law or politics or technology or society. But just assembling a small number of the right people to interact with each other will drive everything. Every revolution, whether it's scientific, political, technological, physical, is driven by a small number of like-minded people who are kind of at the cutting edge of thought, getting together and brainstorming with each other. That's true of Lenin and Trotsky and the Bolsheviks. That's true of the founding fathers. That's true of the scientific revolution in the 1800s. That's true of the times of medicine and kind of all the people creating stuff in the U.S. That's true of Silicon Valley. So you just need to figure out how to get a small number of very innovative people who think in idea space together and cooperating with each other to sort of create the next round of institutions.
So what I hear is that as long as you have a small number of people who are aware of all of these biases and traps and have skin in the game so that they are incentivized to find the true answer, then it can accelerate truth and innovation. So I say it can be worth it because it's not required. You don't have to meet people. I was actually curious, so I googled and read the following. Einstein was actually not a lone wolf. He actually got feedback from the right people, which is something Naval talks about here.
Yeah, you could get away from all the rules and all the systems that are designed by the midwits, as you like to say, to keep the nitwits on
The smartest room is often an empty one, but the right people can accelerate your thinking by decades. This brings me to the minority rule. Listen closely.
We live in a world that is actually structured around the preferences of radicals who won't compromise. It's not built around the will of the majority. The will of the majority does apply in some cases, but in many more cases it's the minority rule.
Now the following clip made me see this truth very clearly, whereas before I did not understand why there are rainbow flags everywhere, at least here in Europe. If most people don't care about this LGBTQ blah blah blah. Listen closely.
This is very interesting for me because like on Twitter, for example, if you go on there, you'll always find somebody who's outraged about something, right? There's somebody in the extreme left or the extreme right in politics or in crypto land, and they're just really, really angry about something. And for a while, I thought they're just being super ineffective, and that's what I was hoping. I was hoping that the most outraged, most angry people are actually very ineffective, and they're just misguided, and they're kind of on the corner. But the sad thing is the minority rule kind of shows that if these people are intransigent enough, they actually run and control society. They establish the laws for the rest of us. And we kind of intuitively know this, like from revolutions, like revolutionaries tend to be small bands, small groups that won't put up with the status quo, that overthrow the entire system, because most people in the center just kind of don't care. They just kind of want to get along, and they want to go along. So this comes back to like, if you're willing to tolerate intolerance, then you're going to live with the consequences.
If you are willing to tolerate intolerance, you are going to live with the consequences. Sounds very true. And that also applies in the 3 big decisions in life.
Spend more time on making the big decisions. There's basically 3 really big decisions. Those 3 decisions really matter. And you literally have to free up your time because the world will assault you with its own agendas, and you have to say no to everything and free up your time so you can solve the important problems. And those 3 are probably the 3 biggest ones.
Well, if you want to know what they are and which traps to avoid when making those crucial decisions in your life, then watch this video where Naval shares 15 lessons that he learned at age 50 that honestly I wish I heard sooner. See you there. Or not. Talk soon.